Alteryx Weekly Challenge 207 looks simple, but actually requires quite a lot more thought than you might think. So we've got this data here, where it's one field, and all of the information is kind of all squished together, but it's squished together in different ways. So for example, the headers are in the first line of data, and they're all separated by a vertical bar or a pipe, whatever you want to call it. Whereas once we get onto the actual data, it's all split up, somewhere. Some places it'll be separated by space, all the years are in brackets, for example. There's lots of different ways that it's split up. So first of all, we kind of think, okay, we'll need to separate off our headers from our main data, and then probably use some Regex to help us deal with it. So to do that, just numbered each row. Let me just run it so you can see it as it's running through, and then filtered it so that the headers come one way and the rest of the data goes the other way. Using a text to columns tool for the headers, then we just separate it all up by the vertical bar, the pipe, and there are 11 columns. I found that out by trial and error. And I've used a select tool just to get rid of the record ID and all the concatenated headers because we don't need those anymore. So that's nice and simple for that. Now the main bit of the challenge is in the regex. So if I just double click on one of the cells so that we can see it nicely up here, then you can see that we've got basically all the 11 columns here with different expressions. So for the first one, that's the ID, the game ID. Then we know that that's a string of numbers. So we're looking for \d, which is numerical, so 0 to 9. And the plus means that there's more than one of them. And we've got this little hat sign, I can't remember the proper name for it, to say, okay, these numbers have to be at the start of the data so that we're not in danger of getting our year or something back instead. So that's how we're getting that first column. And the brackets obviously around it mean that it's a capture group. So that is how we get the ID of the game from within this big long text out into its own column. And that column is called regex out1. For column 2, we've got quite a generic regular expression here. So $* question mark is quite kind of a generic thing that you're kind of using to say, hey, give me kind of anything, and it's more what's outside of the group that is important. So basically what's outside of this capture group, on one side you'll have the ID, so it starts directly after that ID. And after it, you'll have all of this. So that helps to position where the information that we want, which in this case is the name of the game, where that kind of should be in the text. So it's directly after the ID, but then it's followed by all of this as well. So, but how do you get it to capture exactly what you want it to? Because if you can see here, we've got lots of different lengths of game names. Like sometimes there's 2 words, sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's only 1. How do you tell, how do you write an expression that captures that? And basically it's just all in the what comes after it. So what comes after it, we can see, we always have the console, which is 1 word, and then we have the year in brackets afterwards. So the fact that we've got these capture groups following it, so 3 and 4, that's what lets us know whereabouts our second output should finish and our third output should begin. So hopefully that makes sense, because for our platform, which is either Wii or NES or GB or whatever, then that's always 1 word, not necessarily all letters. Sometimes there are numbers in it, like the Xbox 360 and etc. and so forth. So we use a W here because remember, a W is any letter or any number, and we're saying that there's going to be 1 or more of those. And then for our year, if I just go back and click on there, then we can see that our year is always in brackets. Now, usually obviously in regex, we're using brackets as a capture group, so telling what bits we actually want to pass out of the string and which bits we want to leave behind. So to actually indicate brackets, we need to have a backslash in front of an open bracket and a backslash in front of the closed bracket to say that these are actual real brackets that we're searching for, not just saying where the capture group should be. And those brackets are outside of the capture group because we don't necessarily need them, we just want the year information. And that's exactly what we get in a Regex out 4. So then we're going on to the category and the publisher. And these are quite straightforward because we have these nice CAT and PUB indicators as to where they start and where they finish. And so we've just got those outside of our capture group and anything, and then we've got space and the pub, and then we've got anything within the capture group. So that's 5 and 6 for our category and publisher. But the important bit there is that where does our publisher finish? Because we can see that for some of the publishers, most of them in 1 word, but then some of them are 3 words or 2 words. So how do we get it to capture all of that? Well, basically, again, the key lies in what's not in a capture group. And therefore we can see in each of our strings, the publisher ends with a space and then a $sign to signify the start of all the numerical values. So having that $sign is key. But again, that's a value that could mean something. Dollar usually means like the end of the string. So we need a backslash in front of the dollar to tell it that we're actually looking for this exact symbol. So then we're nearly there with all of our parsing out. And finally, we've just got a load of numbers. So some of these numbers have a number, a decimal place, and some numbers after the decimal place. Some of them are whole numbers, so no decimal place or numbers after a decimal place. So the way that we communicate this is that we start off with 1 or more digits. We have a decimal point, which has a backslash before it because a dot would just mean anything otherwise. And then a question mark, the question mark meaning 0 or 1. So there will either be a decimal point or there won't be. And then the digit following that, the star means 0 or more. So if there isn't a decimal point, there won't be any digits, and that's fine. So we just repeat that 5 times because there are 5 numbers formatted similarly. And that gets us everything nice and structured, so that when we do the similar thing of deselecting those first 2 fields, then we can union it together by position, having a specific output order where the headers go on top of all the rest of the data, with a little dynamic rename to take the field names from the first row of data. Then we're nearly there, basically. And all that's left is to use an autofield tool, because beforehand, if we see, then we've got all of our fields are strings, which isn't very useful. And if we look at the output, then we can see that we've got all sorts of different types there. So we can see that when we click on an auto field, then we get all these various types and sizes. And if we just do a visual check, then that looks like we've got the exact same types and sizes there as well. So great. I hope that was helpful if you're unfamiliar with Regex, as it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. So thanks for listening.